Commencing transmission. Engaging scramblers. Proxy chain initialized. And now, live from his hidden base at the Earth's core, the future ruler of Earth, Doomcock.
Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, and I come to you today with a spectacular update on what's happening with Warner Brothers and Star Trek. As I reported in a video last week, it was rumored that Warner Brothers wants to buy Star Trek from Paramount. It was said at the time that Warner Brothers does not want to purchase all of Paramount. They simply don't have the capital to do that. No. The rumor was they simply want Star Trek and nothing but Star Trek. Seeing as how it's nigh unto inconceivable that anyone could possibly do a worse job with the Star Trek franchise than Secret Hideout and Alex Kurtzman did, fans were understandably excited at the prospect of someone rescuing Star Trek from the clutches of those incompetent, buffoonish cultural vandals. But what is the current status of the deal? Folks, no kidding, this story is developing so quickly it's mind-blowing. In this video, I'm going to present the various communications I received about the Star Trek negotiations in the order I received them, so you understand how quickly the situation is evolving. But the final message contains the biggest news yet, so be sure to watch to the end of this video or you will miss out. And believe me, you do not want to miss out.
This will be an interesting update, Doomcock. There were a lot of stumbling blocks to a possible deal that your source mentioned in the last update, so I wouldn't be surprised if things have ground to a stop, though I certainly hope not. Star Trek deserves better than this idiotic, constant abuse.
But one thing is clear. Star Trek at this point is, if not dead, in a diabetic coma with a dent in its forehead from plummeting off Mount Wokemore face first into Snowflake Lake. Star Trek's prognosis has not been good for a long time, and yet, has Warner Brothers dispatched a medical chopper to rescue it? And will that air ambulance get there in time? In this video, I hope to answer those questions for you all. For such an optimistic show to be treated with such stupid, ugly disdain is appalling, and remains one of the worst television shows in human history, probably including the fabled Nuts and Hammer show with Dick Smartin that aired on Atlantis TV before that island sank, a show that consisted entirely of Atlanteans getting whacked right in the family pearls with a variety of ordinary household objects. Star Trek Discovery is even worse than that, and that show basically sank Atlantis, though they did in fact continue for another season after they sank, which is why so many starfish have brain damage to this day. But I digress. At this point, what I'm about to share with you is information provided to me by Hollywood spies, but since I cannot personally confirm any of this, I am presenting it as unverified rumor, and I ask you to please take it with a grain of salt. So let me bring you up to speed on the video I made last week for those of you who missed it. The basic situation as I reported it last week is rumored to be this: Warner Brothers has made an offer to buy Star Trek and only Star Trek. Skydance is currently doing due diligence on purchasing all of Paramount Global, which would include Star Trek. However, it was said at the time that might not be a deal killer because they reportedly weren't interested in Star Trek at all. They're more interested in the movie side of Paramount. Those are the broad strokes of what I reported last week. Now, regarding the new rumors, they unfolded over a few days, and here is what my source said on Friday, quote, "If Skydance does end up with Star Trek, they don't want to touch it with a 50-foot pole. Secret Hideout is out. They're done. They think it's too toxic, so Skydance wants a reset, and they're willing to license it back to Warner Brothers," unquote.
Star Trek is too toxic, eh? You're damn right it is, dude. Secret Hideout essentially bought a steakhouse, took a dump on the filet mignon, then acted all offended when fans said it tastes like shit. What idiots! Interesting that all parties concerned are acknowledging what you've been saying for years, Doomcock. Star Trek is now a soiled brand. Looks like no one other than Warner Brothers is willing to take a chance on it. Does this mean that the deal is going through after all?
Well, Skull of Calderon, it's looking very good, but watch to the end of this video, folks, because I'm tracing the evolution of this situation. My source continued on Friday, quote, "Let's assume Skydance ends up with Trek and licenses it to Warner Brothers. The rights issues are going to be more complicated to unfuck than they realize, I think. Star Trek Studios is the only way to unfuck the mess. Warner Brothers wants to make Trek. Skydance don't have the interest in it. They see it as a piece of value they can farm. I have bigger concerns like, will they split the franchise like they did with Kurtzman and Bad Robot to let Warner Brothers correct the mess? If they do that, we're back at a brick wall because Skydance don't know what they're doing. If they let Warner Brothers just rent the whole thing intact, then the only real issue comes profit sharing, and if Skydance exercises a veto over what Warner Brothers wants to do," unquote. Now that's the message I received Friday at 2:54, but the situation is evolving so rapidly at this point. 5 minutes later, I received the following update, quote, "Confirmed now by a third source, Warner Brothers wants Trek outright. They don't want a license, and an offer is still on the table," unquote.
So is this good news or bad news? Warner Brother wants it all and aren't interested in a license? Is that a deal killer? Or could they wind up with it lock, stock, and barrel, dude?
Well, Harvey, yesterday I received this message from my longtime Hollywood spy, quote, "All right, big good news for a change. First of which, Academy is likely going to be canceled in the next 10 days. Warner Brothers, who has a cash offer on the table, has told them they will take it as a tax write-down no matter how far into production it is," unquote.
Well, thank God for that, man. Every time a secret hideout Trek project gets canceled, an angel gets his wings. But what about Section 31?
My source didn't say anything about Section 31, but I'm guessing if Warner Brothers feels like Secret Hideout Trek is too toxic, they'll want to use it as a tax write-off as well, not further polluting the pool they're buying. Now, get ready for this, folks. My source continues, quote, "Now Skydance has the right to veto the sale. Now, if the talks, which are apparently very serious, I'm trying to get the details on that, but if the talks are as far along as I'm being told they are, then Skydance did not veto the sale of the Star Trek IP, which they had every right to do, given the due diligence they're doing on buying Paramount," unquote. But now, here come two incredible pieces of news, folks, two kickers at the end of this video. My source added, quote, "4 reliable sources have told me Kurtzman's asked to be bought out," unquote. That's the first kicker.
Well, in a typically Malthusian manner, the rats have multiplied and fouled their own nest so long they're desperate to escape their own shithole. Sadly for them, wretched writing, wokeness, cramped quarters, and X-lax are a terrible combination.
Oh, I think they finally realized this, albeit too late to save themselves. I'm betting this final season of Star Trek Discovery, or STD as I call it, will be the worst yet, the crappa de gras. To conclude, and this is the real big one, folks, my source told me the following yesterday, quote, "Okay, the negotiations for the IP are happening at a substantially accelerated rate. Like, in principle, the contract could be negotiated by the end of this month, and the IP could be sold by the end of next month," unquote. Ha! Holy shit, people. At this point, despite my earlier skepticism, it appears like this may actually happen. Could the Trek landscape be vastly different before the end of summer? It's no guarantee, folks. It is not guaranteed, but it is, for the first time in a long time, looking like there is a little bit of light at the end of this secret hideout tunnel. Stay tuned to this channel, my friends, for more updates, good or bad, as they become available. From the center of the earth, this is Victor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.
Ha 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 ha.